Amazing.
So if people have questions, you can just write them in the chat, and we'll get to them towards the end of the panel.
Yes. And to all our panelists, try to keep the answers brief and crisp so that we can have as much of a discussion as we can. So yeah. Great. Let's start in a minute.
So I think we should just begin, right?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can just do it. It's 12:46. So, hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today in our lunchtime panel discussion, which is basically called Discover Infatuation Theory for an Entrepreneurial Mindset, organized by Delft Center for Entrepreneurship, which basically is indulged in providing entrepreneurial studies at Delft, University of Delft. And also it provides the platforms to various entrepreneurs and the people or the students who are interested in entrepreneurship and help them build their own startups. So today we are basically going to explore the answer to the question, like why you should be having an entrepreneurial mindset or you develop an entrepreneurial spirit, even if you're not want to pursue a career in entrepreneurship or building startups, or basically in any type of career that you want to pursue, why you should have an entrepreneurial spirit. So that's why today we have with us Thomas Blackman, who is the co-founder and dean of Global School for Entrepreneurship. And he will be today giving us the perspective towards the infatuation theory and the corporate entrepreneurship. So thanks for joining us today, Thomas.
Thank you. Looking forward to our discussion.
Great. And second, we have with us Jan, who is the team leader of Delft, which is an upcoming student team building a hydrogen aircraft, very close to the heart of every aerospace engineer right now, especially me. And he will be giving us the perspective towards like why you should have an entrepreneurial mindset in a highly innovative student team. So thanks for joining us today, Jan.
Yes, it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
And third, we have with us Ninat, who is an Industry 4.0 architect and at Deloitte and a TDF alumni. And he has also been indulged in university times with that Center for Entrepreneurship, where he did a lot of courses, as well as he has been a finalist in multiple events organized by TU Delft and Yes Delft. And he will be giving us then he will be giving us a perspective towards why you should develop an entrepreneurial mindset for a corporate job. So thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, and really looking forward for the discussion today.
So thank you everyone for joining us as well in the audience. And if you have any questions, do write in the chat, and we will be taking us in the last 10 minutes of our discussion. And so with this, today we are opening with our first question, and that is to all of the panelists present here. And the question is basically, what is entrepreneurship to you and why you should have an entrepreneurial mindset? And I will start with Thomas. You can give your comments on this.
Okay, well, to me, entrepreneurship is all about creating relevance to customers. An entrepreneur who's not able to create relevance is playing a hobby for himself, and the entrepreneurial mindset is necessary to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's the main denominator between entrepreneurial people and non-entrepreneurial people. So it's broader. It's not just startups. It's also in a corporate setting or in any other setting. I believe that you need to be willing to deal with unpredictability and uncertainty.
So it's basically for you, it's about challenging yourself and, always go out of your comfort zones to learn new things, which may be very uncomfortable for you as well.
Yeah, I see life as a board game, right? And when does a board game become really dull? That is when you already know the outcome. So I treat life and I want to embrace uncertainties. I want to have a fun board game, and that means that it's open to unpredictability, uncertainty, and creating new things that aren't there yet. And I think that especially also in this audience with engineers and innovators, you are entering an unpredictable situation, and therefore you need entrepreneurial mindset to cope with whatever you're going to discover.
Definitely, and that's true for every kind of profession, I personally believe. And with this, I would like to ask Ninat the same question, like, why do you think we should develop an entrepreneurial mindset? Yeah. And what is entrepreneurship? What is entrepreneurship is for you?
I think for me, it's delivering impact-driven solutions for the society in general, and looking past beyond just delivering product or services exclusively, but rather see how it really impacts the society in a broader perspective. And looking at why entrepreneurship mindset is needed, I think I agree with what Thomas said, but I would like to add it is applicable to the life in general. More about it creates a solution-driven mindset for you. You start thinking in the line of, okay, how a particular problem can be solved, and this having entrepreneurial mindset brings structure to that approach. So it's really handy in how we live our life as well in general, not really restricting to just do the startups.
So when you say it brings a structure to your plannings or your life, what do you exactly mean by the structure? Which type of structure are you exactly talking about?
So it first starts with finding the problem. First, we should try to know what we don't know. So we try to find the problem, what could be the viable solution out of it, and how it can be achieved. So having this kind of mindset, so this is the structure. If we have this structure, we can look at any problem in the life we face. So we can have that perspective of looking at it.
So basically, trying to extrapolate what problem that you might have and try to understand what steps you need to take in between to reach to the final goal. Yeah, amazing.
Breaking that into smaller steps.
Yeah, breaking into smaller steps and taking one step at a time.
Yeah,
great. So with this, I would like to ask Jan, what is your perspective on entrepreneurship and why we should develop an entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a student, of course, so I'm maybe a bit earlier in the process than Ninad and Thomas. But for me, it's about seeing opportunity and grasping that opportunity. That's what entrepreneurship is about for me. So at university, we get very structured theory and very dry theory in a sense. But to see the opportunity that lies behind the theory and how to actually implement that in practice in solutions that benefit society and also speak to the passion of the entrepreneur itself, I think that's entrepreneurship, and that's where it lies for me.
So when you talk about the opportunities, from that I personally understand that as a human being, what you can do is you can react to the opportunities that come to you, because you can be highly unlucky towards in most of the situations where you might not get things that you may deserve, because life is not fair at the end of the day. So my question is, so when you talk about the opportunities, do you mean that you grab every opportunity that might come to your way and you can just work on it no matter how much effort it takes?
I think there's a bit more thinking involved in that. I'd say not getting every opportunity. Like you get opportunities every day, I believe, but finding the one that suits you as just a human and where that speaks to your passions as well and that fits your morals. I think that's where the tricky part is, and you need to actively seek out and be. You need to seek out those opportunities. They won't come to you, they won't often come to you by themselves. But if you're already working, for example, for me, I have a passion for aviation, so I'm working in that field. I'll recognize opportunities that speak to me faster than if I'd be working in a field that's not so relevant to me in that sense. So I think it's about seeking out the opportunities and then recognizing them once they appear.
Yes, definitely. And so I believe we all of you agree with that. So basically, by developing an entrepreneur mindset is not exactly only for entrepreneurs. It could be for anyone who might be interested in improving themselves. And with this, here comes my second question, and that is about, like, students usually have a big misconception that if you are not going into the entrepreneurship, or if you're not building a startup, you don't have to, build an entrepreneurial mindset, especially with the students. When I believe from the aerospace in the faculty that where I am from. So Thomas, my question is to you, is like, how much do you agree with this? And in your experience, do students who want to pursue a career in corporate job can get any benefit from learning from entrepreneurship?
The thing is, if you think that entrepreneurship mindset, so an entrepreneurial mindset, is only for entrepreneurs, you couldn't be further from the truth. I actually, alongside at Global School, where I develop entrepreneurs, so all our students, they want to become an entrepreneur. I also do leadership and executive development with the biggest corporates. And at them, I actually offer the exact same thing, because they also need to cope with unpredictability and uncertainty with creating new value for their customers or create new market opportunities. And with that comes entrepreneurial thinking. There are examples of projects that were done in the past that took way too long, and by the time they got to the market demand just wasn't there. So what they are learning in corporate environments as well, and what they're looking for in their talent that they're hiring, is people that have entrepreneurial mindsets, people that work in an agile manner. That means that they take smaller steps while creating big dreams and big opportunities. So the entrepreneurial mindset is a great thing to be able to cope with unpredictability and uncertainty of what it should become. And that's the thing with innovation and change, is that you're creating something that isn't there yet. And that introduces all the risks that are associated with it.
Yes, definitely, and it aligns with what Meenat said as well. Like you have to see the bigger picture and then take the small steps. But when you talk about the unpredictability, especially in the markets, and we have seen it like in the past year, when during the COVID there is a lot of unpredictability as well in those sections. So how do you think, like, if a person who has an entrepreneurial mindset would have done it better than a person who have been doing some courses about his education and not being highly agile in his or her approach?
Well, you see this, and by the way, one thing, you don't need a COVID crisis for unpredictability. Yeah? It is with any innovation job, any project, you don't know if it's going to work. And even the most intelligent people, at the end of the day, they're relying on customers or to see if their impact actually works as intended. So that's one. The second thing is, what you see is that, for instance, our government really had a difficulty in getting the speed of vaccinations up to speed, right? And that was because they were controlling everything themselves. If you look at entrepreneurs and their response to that, was that they said, well, look, let's work together. We have expertises in this area. We can do a faster job. We can coordinate it in a different manner. And so the entrepreneurial mindset in that process was much more incremental and evolving, whereas a old school mindset is on the planning and it's rigid and it takes more time. So if you don't know if it will work, if you don't know what the final solution is, you need an entrepreneurial mindset. If you know exactly what it will turn into, then you can do planning. And in theory, we call that the causation reasoning, right? So you have effectuation that we're going to be talking about versus causation. And the causation is the planning thing. And if you exactly know what it will turn into, then causation is more efficient. But if you don't know what it will need to become, then it's more exploratory, it's more evolving, it's more incremental. And that's where you need the entrepreneurial mindset.
So when you're mentioning, like, when you have a rigid brain, so you basically take more time to act because you are much into planning and not into the action, right?
Yeah, people with a really rational orientation, they want to know exactly what the steps are that are needed to get to the end result. They want to see the total picture before they get going. And that takes a lot of time in the beginning. And starting a journey well prepared is, of course, necessity. But planning the entire journey is a whole different thing. So what you see entrepreneurs do is that they start off with knowing where they want to go, and then taking small steps going there from the means that they have available. And then also looking for a lot of collaborations so that they don't have to invent and research everything themselves.
It's definitely, and we can see the examples as well, like when we see like the companies like Tesla and a lot of companies in automobile industry which developed ventilators quite rapidly during when they were needed during the first wave of COVID, with the things that they have in their assembly lines. So this is an example of being, like highly rapid, highly entrepreneurial, and just getting the things done. So
keeping it with cars, Naman, the Henry Ford's Model T was also put together from existing things, right? He didn't invent anything. He just put stuff together. So even there, in those times, we don't need to look at Tesla to see that this is something new, but it's just not common. And it's different from the managerial way of looking at things. And that's the mindset change that's more and more important as the dynamics in the market is increasing.
Yes, definitely. And so with this, I'd like to ask Jan, like, you have been, you're the manager of a student team right now. So what is your perspective towards students who has an entrepreneurial approach towards solving problem, like seeing a bigger picture, but then acting it acting fast, compared to the students who only focus on a very niche areas? So what is your perspective towards that?
Yeah, I can really relate to what Thomas said, having this bigger goal in mind. So the finish line, you know what that is, but then how do you get there is not clear. And rigid planning, as we've tried over 3 years, every team tries it again, try to plan the whole year ahead. It's just not possible. And we've encountered that the students who have developed this entrepreneurial mindset within our team can cope best with that uncertainty. And if we go back to what Delft does, we're just a 50 student organization, an organization with just 50 students working on revolutionarily new technology in an industry that's very much rigid and focused on traditional, basically focused on very incremental change over time, while we're trying to do something revolutionarily different. So we're basically just a small fish swimming against the stream. And what really sets Delft apart, I believe, is that over the years, we've transitioned from kamikaze innovation towards more structured, strategic, or what's the word, systemic innovation in that sense, in which we were first the small fish swimming against the stream, but over the years, we've tried with our network to pull more and more fish to turn around and swim with us. And with that, we've created a school of fish swimming towards a higher goal, in the end, creating value for society as a whole and not just value for one organization. And I think that's where our power lies. And that's, again, something that comes back in the entrepreneurial mindset, I believe. Seeing that opportunity, but then thinking about how can I get there? I can't do it alone. Okay, well then I need partnerships and people who know what they're doing to eventually get there. And that's, I think, our power in that sense.
Yes, sir. I definitely agree with you when you mentioned the point that you're working in an industry which is highly risk averse, because I've talked with multiple CEOs, CTOs, and the thing is like, once you make a decision, it takes billions of dollars into implementing that stuff, especially in aerospace, and then you have to be highly risk averse in that aspect. And what you are doing is definitely really very interesting. So now I would like to ask Ninad about like in your experience in Deloitte, and also you have completed the annotation at the Delft Center for Entrepreneurship. How does your study at DC and you competing in various competitions at Delft at Yes Delft and many other places helped you in your corporate job? Because a lot of people in audience are not interested in building a startup. So what is your take on it?
So I would look at it in the form of three stages. So while I was looking for the job as well, because being an expat, you cannot just directly go and do your own startup, those kind of things, because you have student debts as well. You have to pay loans back as well. And for me, it was like while I was looking for the jobs, it was not like if I don't get a job, because it was just around the pandemic when I got the job. It was the crisis was about to start around there when I joined in. So for me, it was the mindset was pretty clear. Like if I don't get a job, it's fine. I have an option at the hand as well, because during my masters and during my annotation as well, I worked on several ideas and which were kind of a quite matured business plans as well in terms of that. So for me, that was always an option. And after getting into Deloitte, the role was really unique as well for me, because it needed a balance of both worlds, which is technological as well as the functional or strategic outlook as well. And having a background of both kind of helped me in landing up this role that I'm currently in. And after that as well, like now while I'm working with Deloitte, I have a different outlook at looking at the problems as compared to my peers as well right now, because everyone usually focuses on their next promotion or next pay hike or something like that. But it's for me, it's helping like, okay, what do I have to learn over here? Take those risks within the company itself, do the entrepreneurial task as well, which is starting your own initiatives within the firm as well. So I'm more looking towards that. I can do those kind of things as well within the company itself. So I'm learning a lot over here because of the background I have.
Amazing. So now I would like to ask Thomas. You have been working in the field of corporate entrepreneurship and have been working in the field of effectuation theory, explaining effectuation theory to many leaders and managers all over the industries. So what can you explain us in brief, like what is the effectuation theory like to our audience, and how can you apply it in your daily life, and how can you apply it in your corporate job, especially if we talk about that?
Yeah, let's start really brief. No worry, how it was discovered, right? And to me, this is the essential part on why do we pick out effectuation theory? Why not other theories that are out there on entrepreneurship? And if you look at effectuation, the fun thing is that the way it was discovered, when Sarah Sarasvati, who's actually the godmother of effectuation, and a woman I hold dearly because she also is one of the people in my network that I collaborate with, and she did her research in a completely different manner. In the past, researchers would go to expert entrepreneurs and they would ask them, "How did you get so successful?" And then they would hold these stories and we would think, oh shit, entrepreneurs are high risk takers, they're visionaries. And then we would think, oh, that's not for me because I'm not a high risk taker, I'm not a visionary. So then we would go and get a job, right? I started in the same manner. I went and I have a corporate career before I turned entrepreneur. But the way Sarah Sarasvati researched expert entrepreneurs was she looked for expert entrepreneurs who at least 3 times had created a company out of nothing and brought it to the stock market. Now, if you've done that 3 times, you've got something figured out, right? So what she then did was ask them not to how did they become so successful and explain that, but she gave them a concept. I think it was a computer game to develop entrepreneurial skills for students. And she asked them, okay, how would you create a business out of this concept? And then these entrepreneurs would give her all these crazy answers, she thought, because they would say, well, I would not enter this market because I have no network there. I will not enter this because I have no capabilities. I have no clue if this will actually work. The whole paragraph on marketing, they skipped because it's nice that people answer that, but can it be trusted? Let's start with small steps. So they turned out to be actually super experts in limiting risk. And by working from their available means, creative in creating things that they that were important to them as entrepreneurs. So they are really purpose-driven, identity-driven. So they have this big goal on what they would want to achieve. And then they look at what means do I have available? Who do I know? Who can I work with to create steps moving in that direction? Now, that is where effectuation comes from. So it's an explanation on what effective people actually do. And that's a completely different thing as a lot of other theories that are being developed by people and that don't hold any water because they are imaginations of what could work. And effectuation is actually something that works, transcripted into principles. And it's, mind you, we are in a group of people that think really rational, right? At least that's my understanding of the group. And don't treat the principles as steps in a process. They are principles. They're guiding principles on how you cope with nasty surprises when it doesn't work as you had intended. How you create an idea from what you have available and then also get the first steps going to create it. Now, having explained that, I think now it's clear that doesn't matter if you do this as a startup or as an intrapreneur, because in an entrepreneurial job, you also have to create new things that aren't there yet. And the same principles apply on dealing with unpredictability, with the risk. So the whole concept is about, I have this idea, how do I get it to work? And and this is what I see in working with these corporates, high up management wants people to contribute to creating new things, but they also have a responsibility to be in control, that they know where the money is going and that they can predict on to what extent are we taking risks in the company. So they're really waiting for people to have a creative mind and looking for opportunities, but at the same time, taking small steps as it allows them to be in control. And this is what I guide and facilitate in, well, the biggest of corporates.
That aligns with what you mentioned about, like it's basically more about a better way or better approach towards an idea that you want to build upon. So can you briefly also explain about the 5 principles that we have about the effectuation theory so that the people or in the audience can understand exactly what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. I will. So a brief explanation of the principles, right?
Yes.
And then also I got a question in the chat on the combination with other theories that I mentioned before, I will answer the 2 questions in one blow. So if you look at other theories like bricolage, bootstrapping, these are other theories that have been created that are related to effectuation, and they are all about working with the means you have available, which is the first principle in effectuation, which is bird in hand. So you have the bird in hand principle, and that means that an entrepreneur looks at, okay, who am I? But also an intrapreneur. Who are we as a company? What do we aim to achieve? What's our role? DP World is a really large terminal operation, right, for boats and ports. And they have the mission to enable global trade. Now, that is the answer to their question on who are we? Who am I? So for an entrepreneur, it might be an individual thing. So probably Willem would answer, I want a green aviation. But for a company, that could also be like, we want to enable global trade. That is a given. So that's a starting point. So if you are, regardless if you're an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, you need to know what's your main purpose. What do you want to achieve here? And that's who am I? Then you look at, okay, but what means do I have available? What's my knowledge? What are my assets? Who do I know? And that's all bird in hand. And that whole bunch of available means is what you can put into risk and be creative with. Now, the second principle is the affordable loss principle. And that's what we learned from these expert entrepreneurs who explain that they are actually experts in limiting risk. Because there where we thought they were the high risk takers, they actually only take small steps, but still keep their eye on the bigger picture. And then they look at, okay, which means do I have available and what can I afford to lose? If you look at the work from Professor Paul Iske, he's researched hundreds of failures. And his estimate is that 90% of what we try in innovation and entrepreneurship fails. Now, if we know that it's 90, it could be even, he could be way off, right? It could be 70. But then still, so we can't predict if it will work. Then why put all your eggs in one basket? Affordable loss teaches us that you only risk small things so that you can afford to be wrong. So those two combine well. Now, one way that we learn from entrepreneurs how to limit their risks and not afford themselves is by having other people chip in and put the money where their mouth is. So if they also have an alignment on what you would want to achieve, and they have a win, and it's possible to create a win-win, then you could create a quilt. Now, a quilt is pieces of cloth stitched together and that make up the solution. So then you don't have to buy or learn or develop or whatever capability you need, but you can collaborate. And that collaboration principle is called the crazy quilt. Crazy has nothing to do with insane or stupid. It has to do with unexpected. So collaborations that you might not expect, but because they got together, they have an unbeatable advantage towards their competitors because it's difficult to organize. Now that's the crazy quilt. These three are all about getting started, combining the means. And then the fourth one is the lemonade principle. This is a different one by nature. Also, check out the chat. I also answered the question about lemonade there. And that principle is all about the process. Once you get started, like Jan, he has run and he will run into issues, in things that he hadn't expected. Why? Because he's creating something that is new. And creating something that's new is never, ever an efficient process. It can always be done more efficient when you look back later. But that's assuming that the situation is the same, which will never be the case. There will always be now fish swimming with Jan, as he explained, instead of only against him. So that situation will never repeat itself. So the whole idea of the lemonade principle is dealing with the things you did not expect that are not working for you. But the beauty of it is that you learn and you need to understand, and then you can become more effective. It's understanding the market. It's understanding the context in which you are creating your new solution. Then the last one, and that's a strange name, but Jan will like it because it has to do with airplanes. It's the pilot in the plane principle. And that principle is all about not being a passenger in someone else's plane, but actually being the pilot. And the funny thing is, I also talked about this in corporates, and I actually added some analogies to it. There are even people in teams that are not a passenger, they are cargo. They cost energy, and you have to take them along. And then there is people that are actually ground personnel, and they only shine the flashlights, and they present as if they own it and co-created it. But they haven't done anything. They haven't flown an hour. But the pilot in the plane principle is all about taking ownership. And that has nothing to do with ownership financially. It has to do with mindset, with engagement, with feeling responsible for the project's success. Those are the 5 principles, Naman. And if you hear the explanation, I think it's perfectly clear that regardless of being an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, the same principles apply.
That's definitely true. And all the principles that you have mentioned is basically about how can you, like, it's basically the wisdom that you have, that you will gain in future if you are just failing and then getting a success. These principles basically gives you a roadmap to that wisdom in a much better way. I would consider them in that sense. And so with this, I would like to ask Jan, how do you use these principles, or if you ever do use these principles in your team, and how they have made your team more effective or more entrepreneurial, or however you want to see it?
Yeah, I think especially 2.5 years ago, all of these principles in some form came back to us and presented themselves, and they've been relevant all throughout the past 2.5 years, I believe. The one that I think is the most for us applicable And the most valuable, I'd say, to be aware of is the crazy quilt one, because we're nowhere if we don't have our partners, and we're aware of that. Our value is created, and our step ahead of the competition. Well, we don't really have competition, but the other projects working on this is that our network is the value. Basically, we're trying to get information from all kinds of sides, and without our partners, we wouldn't be able to have any of that information. So if we from the start would have said, okay, we're just going to develop this all of ourselves, and we don't care about what everyone else is doing, we're going to do it ourselves, it would have failed in the first month of the conception of the project. Instead, we thought of, okay, liquid hydrogen is not in aviation yet, but it is in agriculture. So why don't we check out agriculture? And well, now we have a partner, CryoWorld, who's been in agriculture for most of their industry, and we're now working together with them to develop the liquid hydrogen side of the system. And in return, they get an entry into the aviation sector, which is a win-win again. And that's where this crazy quilt principle is so strong. You create win-wins if you abide by that principle. Now, and then the second one I think that's most applicable is the lemonade one, of course. There's, as Thomas mentioned, there's so many problems that we've faced, but we've also learned from them. And one of the more high-level examples I can give of that is that we have two projects running parallel, one being one step ahead of the other. So the prototype project is a drone, and the full-scale project is a full-scale aircraft with people in it.
Yeah.
But the technology at the core is the same. So what we face in the prototype, which is in a further development stage, will eventually trickle down into the full scale and will accelerate that
development. Okay.
Because it's there before the other. And I think, that principle works perfectly there. Yeah.
And I also personally think that the pilot in the plane principle, like you're developing a plane, it lies with that as well, because you have to so you took the initiative 2.5 years ago, and now you're developing that product, and people have been joining you, and they are developing it with you. But if you would not have taken, that initiative your own self, then you would not have been here by now. But that also, I think, applies to you as well.
Very, very much true. But I think another aspect to that is that I was only here a year ago, and the team has already existed for 3 years. What the thing is within Air Delft, the pilot in command is also transferred to someone, to a new team that takes in that command. And it comes from a passion because they want to work towards the same goal. And I think if that transfer is not good, then you have a problem. Currently I am the pilot in command in that sense, but if I don't transfer it correctly, the plane will crash. So for the past 2 years, we've been successful at that. But we're very much aware that this pilot in command should be transferred as well.
Yes, definitely. I completely agree with you, because we all know the example of Boeing 737 MAX. What happens if there are no pilot in command, right? So aerospace engineers will get that job. But now my second question to Ninad is, how do you see these principles? And there are two aspects to it. How do you see these principles applying to you personally? And you mentioned earlier as well that Deloitte is becoming more and more rapid, more and more entrepreneurial. So how do you see Deloitte using these principles in building new projects and taking the current ones forward?
Before answering your questions, Naman, and before going to the points as well, about the principles as well, I would like to say, Jan, that these whole student teams are on their own are also kind of entrepreneurial journeys. Although the financial aspect is limited to the funding that we receive and then the solution we make. But one of the teams is now an electric vehicle manufacturer based in Eindhoven, which is Lightyear. It was a student team 5 years ago. So it plays an important role or an important playground to do these kind of experiences. And if you participate in it and like find the important finding out of it, it can be turned into a startup as well. Another example is Heart as well, Heart Hyperloop as well within Delft. So it was one of the dream team, and now it's a company for Hyperloop. Coming back to the principal point, what I related to most was the lemonade. So I have always believed in this one line, which is be stubborn about the vision and flexible about the approach to it. And lemonade principle is something that I related most personally, about like being more into the situation, see whatever is there, make most out of it. And another principle which is quite important is bird in hand, which is like see whatever resources that are available around you, see what can be created, what is the value that can be delivered out of that. And coming to the Deloitte scenario, so Deloitte is kind of changing. So due to this whole COVID-19 situation as well, what I saw in past 1.5 year was a change in the mindset of the companies, because the change in Deloitte is directly proportional or directly depends upon how the industry is changing in general. So as due to the COVID, the whole digital transformation was taking place, the change in Deloitte also happened. They said like, okay, we have to focus more upon the engineering side now, because they have been traditionally more of a management and strategy firm, as well as into risk and other things, but they were not primarily a tech, were not focusing on technical solutions. But they kind of realized like, okay, this is something which is going bigger, and we have to restructure ourselves, we have to reorganize ourselves, and look for these more innovative solutions. So while being with Deloitte as well, I saw and I kind of looked into these approaches where these whole new innovative solutions can come up, like the things we have been doing in the university, back in the university days, how can those can be pulled up and converted into solutions and do the quick proof of concepts of that and get it validated then and there with the client, because Deloitte has the access of the clients. So leverage those things, whatever we have, and deliver those kind of solutions. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I completely agree with you on the point, like when you mentioned that deliver fast, like you have to build prototypes soon and get them validated and then bring to the market quite early. And I personally believe that if we see like one of the biggest examples of this is China, like how they, create everything so quickly when it comes to market and then scale it as well. They are like one of the biggest entrepreneurs, I would say. So now we'll take some questions from the audience, and one of the first question is from I would say Puneet, and he said like the question is I realize there are knowledge and credibility based entry barriers for entrepreneurs trying to enter new field they don't have prior experience of. So how do those people can overcome the credibility barrier and start new things? So we'll start with Thomas. So if you can give your perspective on this.
Yeah, sure. Great question. I already started answering it before you asked me to elaborate on the effectuation principles. But so the first part of the answer is in the chat, but I'll recap a little bit and to explain. See, the thing is, credibility is something that is coming from track record, right? And it can either be based upon results or from knowledge, or it can come from anything. It's connected to the bird in hand. So how feasible is you creating a solution coming from your bird in hand? So how trustworthy are you perceived that you can actually deliver? And often when you start out and you don't have any experience, or your bird in hand is still small, the main way, and I'm keeping it within the effectuation principles, as it also explains the theory at the same time, is to build quilts. So to create a crazy quilt, and it can be a founding team or other person working in a different department that has knowledge. So you build people around you that do have the credibility already. And that adds to your credibility, because then you're seen as a team or as a founding group. And so the crazy quilt enlarges the bird in hand. So these principles are related. So by building a quilt, you get more bird in hand available. And the funny thing is that if you do it really well, there's also bird in hand that you're getting with it. So let's let's not make it too dry theoretical. Let's make create an example. For instance, if Ninat and I would work together, and he would invite me to do a workshop on effectuation for Deloitte. We could do that together. He has the network internally for Deloitte. I have the effectuation knowledge, but it also means that if I would have a question that I think, hey, maybe within Deloitte someone has knowledge about this, I could ask Ninat, and then my quilt with Ninat also gives me access to means that might not even be relevant in the beginning, but because my new question, those means become relevant, and then I can just ask for it and enlarge the quilt. So building collaborations and building co-founding teams gives you that credibility and legitimacy in the market.
Yeah, before moving forward, so we were ready at the time. Is it okay for everyone in the panel to go for like 5 to 10 minutes more? Is it okay with everyone? Yeah. Okay, great. So with this question, I think Jan, you would be able to answer this as well, like because you have been building a new team. Like now you have a lot of credibility. You have already on the product, but in the beginning, when you need more sponsors, you need more financial help. How did you move forward with the credibility aspect that Puneet asked?
Yeah, I think since I wasn't there from the very early start, I can't really explain how that at the earliest start went. What I do know at the start of this year is that there was very much still not a lot of knowledge on liquid hydrogen in aviation, and we tried, like the example I gave earlier, from the agricultural sector, because that's where the knowledge was. We tried to seek that out. And try and create value also for that company and create a win-win. So I think it's exactly, you need to surround yourself with the people you can pull yourself up to. It's not directly, for example, going to Airbus and asking, oh, would you want to put your name on our website? That's not how it works. You need to try and create value also for your counterpart. But also explaining then the opportunities that arise. And I think that's where we were quite successful. And that's where some of the credibility that we have now is thanks to. Yeah.
And Ninad, what do you think about the credibility aspect?
I think this is something that I can relate to as well, because I have faced brunt while I was doing my bachelor's in India. So this credibility in India also, that was because there is this whole IIT thing, Indian Institute of Technologies thingy as well. So if you're from a non-IIT institute, then basically your credibility is a bit lesser from an entrepreneurial point of view. So the access to funding and the resources a bit much more lesser. So I completely relate to this, and overcoming this barrier is basically, as Thomas also mentioned, is overcoming one of these principles as well. Like, if you can be a subject matter expert, you can have that. If you have some, because if you're starting off from scratch, if you don't have anything in the back, so the one thing would be basically either make a team, have the team, gather the people around who are those subject matter experts, or if you're in a position because you have the whole vision. So if it's possible for you to be a subject matter expert in that field, you can be that as well, and then try to associate and fill in the holes that are remaining as well around. So that would be a new.
Naman, can I add something?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. See, the thing is with the credibility, I believe there's a thin line on openness and then being too vulnerable and really building trust. And if you are open as a starting entrepreneur, is like, this is something I really want to achieve, but I'm not knowledgeable just yet. But I would really love to collaborate and work towards a win-win. What would you need me to prove for you to trust me that we can move forward together? So being open, because by 3 questions, if you are, for instance, doing a project in blockchain and they ask you 3 questions, and sometimes they're even in disguise, so you don't even understand that's a testing question. But if you fail that one, your whole trust and your whole opportunity is gone. But if you are open about, well, I don't know too much about blockchain at the moment, but I will come back to you with answers. But what would you need me to prove for you to really become interested in this project? And then you go out and organize the solution. So openness and transparency. I see a lot of people that start in projects that have a credibility issue still, that they try to play as if they are further ahead because they listen to the American stories about fake it till you make it. But if you get tested and you fail, you're gone. So sometimes the explanations of some of these entrepreneurship gurus, they shouldn't be taken too too serious. Otherwise, we would all be sitting in an ice bath and doing yoga before 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I completely agree with Thomas' point over there as well. It's more about accepting the things that you are aware of. It's being more accepting and being more self-aware as well. Like the things that you can do that you can influence or control, and then accepting, okay, these are something which I cannot handle. These are something which are uncontrollables for me, and then seek out to them and being open about that. Okay, this is the genuine problem I have, and that's how then seek help basically.
Yeah,
I see a nice question in the chat, Naman, about vulnerability and the sixth principle. I think it's connected to affordable loss. So when you talk to someone, you need to do a risk assessment to what extent you can afford to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies in trying to trick someone or camouflaging certain lack of knowledge. There's also affordable loss there. So to what extent do I think if it doesn't work out, can I get away with it? Yes or no?
And Jen, you were saying something.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I just wanted to say that I think it's very relatable for me that the faking part, especially in aerospace, doesn't work. Yeah, we like almost every meeting we go into, we say, okay, this is what we know and this is what we don't know, and now please tell us what we should work on, and we'll get back to you. I think that's because then, yeah, again, it creates that value again for the other party as well, and of course it helps that we're a non-profit, so there's no IP issues there, but I think for normal companies it works as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think adding to this as well, like what just Jan said, just like it also helps in building your credibility again. It again ties back to the previous question, like the things that we do here within, let's say, for example, in a student team, the approach we are having. So it is basically, credibility is basically your past experiences, what you have done within the college teams, student teams, and what kind of experiences you had, and tying those previous experiences in one stream or a bigger goal, so you can build up credibility on that.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So with this, I guess it's a good time to we can stop this panel discussion. So any last things that with our panelists wants to say in last 30 seconds, then just please go ahead.
Yeah, there's a question about design thinking and effectuation in the chat, and I will use my last minutes of glory to answer that question. And the thing is that in the design thinking double diamond shape, you start from who am I, what do I want to achieve, then you explore options, right? So from the means that you have available, look at what could I create with this, who could I collaborate with, which is expanding options. And then you choose the one that you find most promising or most efficient way to get to your goal. And then you validate. And the reason why you do that is because you want to diminish risk. So the affordable loss principle kicks in here, and you deal with the lemons while you move forward. So yes, it is related to design thinking. Guys, I had this, normally I end with a sheet from Arnold Schwarzenegger, this Austrian philosopher, and he's never built a muscle without lifting weight, right? So I really hope that you guys start applying the effectuation theory, because it's called theory, but it only works in practice. So please start applying, and then you'll become masters at it itself. Everybody applies this in private lives already. See how you coped with COVID. Now do it in your professional lives too. Good luck.
That's definitely true. Ninad.
Yeah, applying this effectuation theory or having this particular mindset is in principle, like I have been also kind of, I have this similar mindset as well. I have an entrepreneurial mindset as well. So it really helps while practicing it. I try to practice it or apply these new methods and approaches, try to experiment with them as much as I can within day-to-day life or the task I'm involved with. So it's a really good mindset to have. It really helps you in solving problems, think about the long term, and give a different perspective from others. So in principle, it's a very good approach to have, and yeah, you should follow it in your day-to-day routine as well.
Great. Jan, last words.
As comment, yeah, well, I'll keep it very brief. I think especially because I wasn't aware of these principles in a sense, but they're so applicable to whatever you're doing. And I could relate to them within watching a 3-minute video. So I think that's the most powerful side of it. And definitely it's relatable to your personal life, but then to actually put it into practice in a professional setting, I think is another thing. And yeah, it's a really cool thing to be thinking about. And definitely I'll be thinking about it more now as well going forward.
Great. So thanks everyone. I hope you get to know more insights on why you should be developing an entrepreneurial mindset while no matter what career are you pursuing. And actually we are moving towards a dynamic world, right? So we need more people who can learn things faster, can act faster, can implement faster, as Thomas and Nina and Jan said, and apply them in the real world, because that's what we need. We don't need bookish knowledge anymore. And hence I would say it like my favorite favorite line, which is like, master the concept of learn to unlearn and learn faster, unlearn faster. And hence, so thanks a lot everyone, Thomas, Nina, Jan, and thanks for everyone in the audience to come. And if you want to know more about the entrepreneurship, then do visit our website, that is self-centerforentrpreneurship.com, and we would be happy to answer all the questions. And follow us on the LinkedIn and Instagram as well to have a regular updates. Also do follow Global School for Entrepreneurship, where Thomas is the co-founder and the dean. And you can connect with Thomas on LinkedIn as well. And also follow Delft. It's doing an amazing job. I've worked with them, and I'm really looking forward to the day we will see the flying hydrogen aircraft soon. And follow Delft as well, and follow Jan as well on LinkedIn. And again, with Ninad, you can connect with him on LinkedIn. He's really interesting when it comes to ideas and talk about history as well, along with the ideas. So that's amazing. So do connect with us, and if you have any questions, then do let us know. So in the last, I would like to just take a screenshot so that we can put it on LinkedIn, and I will tag everyone in this. So yeah, just smile. Thank you. Yeah, got it. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks a lot for the session again. Have a great day. Ciao.
Thanks, Willem.
Thank you so much, Naman. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you, Naman.
Thank you.